in this Busting Indy Myths, and this is Busting Indy Myths Part 11, we're going to look at the idea, and this is actually addressed to people in England. It's the idea that separation will make those whinging Scots go away, and we won't have to listen to all the whinging anymore. And why is that an indie myth? Because it encourages an attitude which promotes separation. And we really have to bust this indie myth, because separation will not make the Scots go away. Separation will only increase the divide. Separation will increase the Scots-English divide. It will not heal it. It will not make it go away. It will, in fact, make it worse. And how is this going to be? Well, think about it. You know, it was one of my personal heroes, the Duke of Wellington, says politics is always about what's on the other side of the hill. You don't know, but you've got to imagine what's coming around the top of that hill. Okay? And imagine if, God forbid, there were separation. Okay, what's then going to happen to what's called the UK Parliament at the moment? You wouldn't actually have a rest of the UK. You wouldn't even have a remainder of the UK. You would have a remnant of the UK, which would very quickly collapse in on itself, because Northern Ireland is going to find itself in trouble, and then Wales is going to think, well, if Scotland and England can't hold it together, why should little old Wales bother with the effort? So very quickly, what's left of the so-called British Parliament in Westminster will rapidly, and by necessity really in many ways, turn into just an overwhelmingly English Parliament. And if it didn't do that, then there would be a huge demand for a separate English Parliament. And then you would have two parliaments in England. You would have an English Parliament, and then you would have what remained of the Westminster, formerly Union Parliament. And that would become an absolute shadow of itself, because the English Parliament would overwhelm it in power and authority. And so, remember, Scotland's still going to be here, and there's still going to be an awful lot going on in these islands, and so the SNP is just going to turn its attention from moaning about Westminster to moaning about the English Parliament, wherever that's based. And the idea that the SNP is going to go, oh, we've got independence now, what we'll do is we'll just sit back and we'll get on well with all these people in England, that's imagining that the SNP demand for separation is based on reason. That's imagining it's based on rationality. No, it's not. To a very large extent, the SNP demand for separation is based too often on simple scapegoating. You know, scapegoating. Oh, that we messed that up. Who's to blame? Oh, it's these blooming English. They're to blame. If only they hadn't done this. If only they hadn't done that. And so that's what it's like just now. So imagine what it would be like under separation. Oh, we can't reach our potential because the English have done this, or the English Parliament has set this at too high a level, or this isn't fair, or whatever. So on and so forth. There's always going to be something that they'll complain about. So separation is not going to make the Scottish issue go away. You're going to keep hearing about it. And of course, the anti-English media, which is basically the London media, they're going to continue to love the Scottish moaners. They're going to continue to highlight them. They're still going to be shoving these people into your faces on television and radio all the time. So it's not like you can get away from it, I'm afraid to say. All we can really do is think, how is it best that we can all rub along here in our United Kingdom? How is it best that the union itself is not perfect, but we can best rub along together within a union? And most of the time, most of us get what we want. But outside of a union, we're just going to be like squabbling cats in a bag. And this is the thing that we're always pointing out, you know. Politics isn't perfect. There is no perfect answer to absolutely everything. The best that we can do is concentrate on, as we always say, on the big British picture. We have more in common than what divides us, and it makes sense for our political institutions to reflect that fact. And so long as you work from that presumption, then you're not really going to go too far wrong. But it's when you start thinking that there's too many things that divide us, that we can't possibly find agreement. Well, once you go down that route, then there's really no answer other than just perpetual conflict. So, the union relationship may not be perfect, but let's realise the dangers of removing us all, Scotland, England, Northern Ireland and Wales, from the big British pond, where we can all swim around together and we can rub along together, or we can swim around each other, but we can generally get on in the big British pond. And so politically, this means working constantly to promote the values of solidarity, not separation, the values of unity, not division, and to appreciate and teach about the benefits and the values of our common inheritance. That which we have inherited together over these hundreds and thousands of years here in our shared United Kingdom. Thus ends Busting Indy Myths, Part 11.